It's different for every character, really. Some characters just come to you, don't they? And different parts come to you. And that's the thing about the tools of how we've been trained. You only really need to use them if you need to.
Welcome, Melanie Liburd, a British actress renowned for her roles in This Is Us and Power Book 2 Ghost. You might have also seen her in Game of Thrones or the series Gypsy. And if you're a gamer, you'd recognise her for her performance in Alan Wake 2. Born in the UK to a diverse family with roots in London and St Kitts. Before training as an actress, she read art history and attained a BA honours in fashion design and travelled the world as a fashion model. But now at the top of her game, Melanie will soon be seen in action film Bad Boys, Rise or Die.
Everyone that I've worked with knows their shit. I wouldn't imagine working on a big movie like this. For instance, Will Smith and Martin, they come in and they know everything that's going on. Yeah. They want to sit down. It's been such a wonderful process for me because I have got to sit down with all the execs and Will and discuss the character. Just use your time wisely. Just because you've got half a page, the process is still the same. Still the background, still you've got to find who your parents were, why is she the way she is? Because then your half a page will turn into something profoundly interesting rather than just someone speaking the lines of half a page.
All right, we're here with Mel Liburd. Happy to have you in the studio here, Melanie. So it's so good to have you. We've known each other for a little while. I've seen your career flourish.
Thank you.
So one thing I want to find out from you. Tell me
when did we meet, actually?
When did we meet? We met...
I remember we met friend.
We met through Jimmy.
Yeah. I was going to say it must have been Jimmy
on 3rd Street in LA.
Was that the first time I met you?
In the little door.
Oh my
And
goodness.
you just come over to do a project with Netflix.
Oh, and I was actually doing the Netflix project in New York. I think I'd just moved back to LA. Called?
Gypsy, there you go.
With Naomi Watts and Billy Crudup.
There you go.
Yeah. We did one season, but I loved it. I mean, working with Billy was actually, I learned a highlight. What a joy.
Really?
He's just such a phenomenal actor. Honestly, one of the best people I've ever worked with. And he's so funny. We just got there.
He's in the morning show, right?
He's in the morning show. Yeah. He's just the nuance of it. You can imagine someone up all night and not sleeping. And I'm just finding detail in character work. I think that's him.
Did you learn a lot from watching him?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Just being on set and his process and just talking to him, really. I actually we filmed together and then we he'd say little things on set like, it's just me, just forget. Because I would, I don't talk a lot about my process, but I was like, when you're really working out scenes, and he was so available to talk about that stuff. Some actors don't. It's very like you just go and do the scene and then you go home. But I think that's most people's experience, actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
they just jump on and then
yeah, and you're like, oh, okay, we're doing the scene, we're intimate, but I think the smart ones kind of take a moment, and we kind of got a rehearsal, which I don't know if he requested or our director requested, Victoria Mahoney, and she got us to workshop the scenes, and it just relaxes you, doesn't it? I suppose it was one of my first jobs, so you get nervous around people that you've seen on telly and
was that it? Was it because
like
he was a famous? Is that why? A little bit.
Yeah. Well, you just want to do well when you're starting out, and and you just don't know how people are going to be.
So now you're the famous one. When you're with it, when
I never feel like the famous one.
But you are. We've all seen you on This Is Us. We're about to see you in Bad Boys 4 with Will Smith, right? Now you're in that position of being the actor that's more experienced.
Yeah.
How do you help the co-star that's coming in for that one line with you? How do you, what do you give to them to make them feel at ease?
I think I love people anyway, and I just love the work. So if someone comes in, I'll always ask them if they want to, do you want to read the scene, or do you want to, go over anything or talk about the character dynamic if you're working closely with someone and their relationship. I think it's always good to talk that through and get the other person's perspective of that, and just make people feel comfortable.
In the trailer, like when you're on set, or is that something that happens before? Are you literally on the day, or
if you get a moment? I mean, I sometimes it's in the hair and makeup. I think it's usually beforehand. Otherwise, it's too late, isn't it? I mean, unless it's, especially if it's a co-star, because co-star, and I remember the feeling of coming in as a guest. I don't know if you guys remember, but you walk into a trailer and no one's really,
they don't really acknowledge you. No one's talking to anyone.
And I remember thinking, oh, what is it with these famous people? Do you know when you first start? And I thought, God, why don't people talk? And now I understand, and it's really just because there's so much to learn. When you're a series regular on a show, or when you're shooting a big movie, I'm always I'm in the character. I'm learning, because I'm often American as well. So I'm speaking in my character as soon as I arrive on set. From the time the van picks me up, I'm in American. I'm always thinking in the character, thinking about what the scene's going to happen, and I think, and even catching yourself doing that. And so I make a point of saying, hey, how are you? Let me know if you need anything, just to welcome someone, because I remember how nerve-wracking it can be.
It's daunting. You step onto set, and if you haven't done it a lot, you step on set and you don't know if you're supposed to stay there, if you're supposed to go over, if you're supposed to say hi to someone or not.
Yeah.
And then I suppose as well, if you're on a series regular, not only are you having all these processing thoughts, but you might just be appreciating the quiet time. You might have just come off of a scene, going to another scene. You don't want to chit chat about the ball game.
Yeah.
I mean, I never want to chit chat about the ball game because I don't even know what they are.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I think it depends on your personality. I mean, I know some actors, which is really annoying, they can just do a really heavy scene and then just come out of it and have a chat. Do you know what I mean? Or go out of their accent and then come back in and just drop back in and then do it. But I can't do that. So if I'm doing something heavy, no, I wouldn't call myself method by any means, but I do definitely have a thought process if I'm doing something more heavy.
Talk us through your process.
Oh goodness. I mean, it's different for every character, really. I think some characters just come to you, don't they? And different parts come to you. And that's the thing about the tools of how we've been trained. I mean, you only really need to use them if you need to. Do you know what I mean? There's no point in
you don't have a set thing that you do every time for every role then?
The core is, asking all the questions.
What are the questions?
Oh, come on. Everyone has the acting questions.
I don't know. Like pretend like I'm a brand new person here.
What do you want? Why are you doing it? Who is this relationship to you? And
what, when, where, why, and how,
how. But they're just the basic questions. But then I go into, and I have tried different ways of method and using some of my own experiences, but that doesn't work for me anymore. Because I think, when you understand your body and how the body deals with trauma and pain, it doesn't really know the difference between going through pain as an actor or as your own pain as a human being. Because essentially we're kind of tricking ourselves to get in an emotional state and feel an emotional state if we are actually doing a good job, I think.
Do you think that's necessary to do that, or do you think that's dangerous?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean by the so-called method. Like, I'm not method. There are ways of getting there without using all your personal stuff. Right. I mean, I still think you're tricking your body in a way anyway. So the other way would be, for me, to place and come up with big life scenarios. Say for you were born. What happened when you were 5? What happened when you were a teenager? What happened when you were 25? Sometimes and often they're painful shifts in our life that really have a massive effect on how, for the rest of our life, if that makes sense.
And do you draw from that in your roles? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is I'll create it. Right. So if
for the character,
I'm just saying I'll create it for the character. So, and it's a way of building something from nothing and then letting it go. It's a much easier process to let go of.
Oh, because that's not intrinsic in your right. You're not drawing from personal experience. You're creating a new personal experience.
New personal experience from scratch.
Is there a danger if you've got a character for a long time, say you're on a movie for 3 months, that new experience becomes so real that you've added trauma to yourself?
I think absolutely, but I think the safest way to do it is to build it from scratch, and then it's much easier to let go of.
Because then you can.
Then I say, well, this isn't me. You can, I still think you're tricking the body. I'm still feeling all the things, but I think for me, it's much easier to let go of.
There's that book, The Body Keeps the Score, which talks about all the effects of trauma on the
and you can. It's like manifestation and visualization. You can really, if it depends how many hours and hours and hours you think about a thing. Like, for instance, if I'm playing a complex character, and I love complex characters, what makes her complex? What happened when she was 5 years old? Usually the trauma sets in from a very young age, like 1 to 5. As her mother may be narcissistic, her father an alcoholic. What does that do to someone? Already you've got a multitude of avenues to go down to build a foundation of a character. Just from that. And that's 5.
How do you do that with auditions?
Auditions are a quick way in. I find that I used to, and you know what it's like back in the day in pilot season. It's not so much now, but I would have, and this really helped me actually. I would say, okay, I'd have about 5 solid characters in my going round that I've played in the back pocket. Who's this person a bit more like? So I might have a warrior type, because I mean, I know the types that I get. So I can get like the badass. But I've had the badass. I've played a warrior called, is it Samara? She was kind of like in Mogadishu, like badass, a freedom fighter.
You're so nice.
Freedom fighter. I could step into that and I was like, oh my God, she's a bit like Samara. So I'm like, fuck, this is great. And
so you've already done that work for Samara,
and the
trouble and the feelings, for that audition.
Yeah, and the feel. And
as your starting point.
Sorry.
Like as a starting point, like as a recipe, you've already got that base down.
Already got the base of Samara. I'm like, I don't know the details, but I could always go back and listen to a playlist that I've created for Samara. I can listen to the playlist and already I drop into Samara.
Well, this is interesting. You create playlists for your characters, to get you in the mood for it.
Yeah. So if I'm about to go to war, which Samara lived through a war.
What's on Samara's playlist?
God knows, some full on
angry music.
Yeah. Warrior music.
Right.
But yeah, and then if I'm playing Zoe from This Is Us, who had a troubled childhood.
And a very handsome boyfriend.
And she was a massively avoidant personality type. And even if you learn the basics of personality types, like you could be anxious avoidant or secure, even those simple things. Oh, well, Zoe is a lot avoidant. Yeah. So she, every time someone comes close to her, when people get too close, she runs, she avoids. She wants to be desperately close to someone, but because of her trauma and because of her past and because of her abuse as a child, she runs when people get too close.
I mean, let's dive into that. You just referenced a book on attachment theory, right? So one of the things that I've really embraced in my adult life, having studied acting as a youth.
Yeah.
Personally, I embraced psychology and philosophy to the point where I wish actually I'd studied that, because the things you mentioned like that's one example and simple, but I feel like one of the best things we can do as actors is study people.
Yeah. And that's our study.
And that's why I watch documentaries more than I watch fiction sometimes, because I'm studying people.
Yeah. And isn't it amazing what you see in documentaries and you're like, never guessed.
And then you read a book like the one you referenced. It's such a good tool because you understanding those attachment styles, which basically, if anyone's read the book, it really does almost cover everyone you can think of in your life, everyone you've ever dated. You can go, oh, that was that one and that was that one.
Absolutely.
Then you can apply that to characters so quickly. So philosophy and psychology is important.
Yeah, hugely. I mean, we're just studying. I love people. People are the most fascinating thing, like what's happened, what's going on. I used to go into, and I still do sometimes, you walk into a bar on your own, because actors, we travel a lot on our own. So I'll always sit at the bar, always eat something at the bar, have a glass of wine, and just watch people. And literally, if you want to build a character, sit somewhere, sit in a cafe, and someone will come to the bar, and just the way they hold themselves, what they order, how they sip their drink, how long they've been there, how they eat them. Do they eat the nuts?
Vocal inflection, the way they hold their body, how they've been.
And you could literally write a whole character study of just watching that person, or just what comes to your head. that is what helps us, our imagination as actors. And often you're right.
Yeah.
People just show so much of themselves.
So playing devil's advocate though, in the last few years, there's been a lot of shift towards this idea of authenticity in casting, that casting directors want you to be the thing, not play the thing, right?
Yeah.
Are you finding that in your work, or are you still asked to perform characters?
Well, don't you think, and this is a question for you both, I mean, don't you think we get the parts because there is a little bit of us in all of the parts that we play?
I've definitely learned that over the years, and I see in Richard's work as well. I mean, the work you've done recently, Rich, has been spot on for you.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think so. Didn't Meryl Streep say something about she tries to find what in the character is her is the same. She finds all those parts that are the same. And I think as actors, we do try and do that. And it makes it easier to say the words truthfully, doesn't it? If you think you're saying them from a point of view that it's yourself saying those words, they just come out. And then you're not thinking about the lines, you're just thinking about what you're thinking of, and then they come out. Right. That's what I always aim for. But
let's just take a moment to applaud Richard for putting himself and Meryl Streep in the same conversation. I love that.
Why not? You're both actors.
This is going to be amazing for the SEO.
What Mel's saying now is true. You know, she's trying to find those bits of herself that you've got.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got in your toolkit, in your arsenal of weapons that you can use. You've got those recipes.
And why not? Because we are amazingly complex human beings. So I sometimes, when I speak to actors and they're trying to create these things, I'm like, you are actually really interesting as you are.
Yeah.
But I think what I see when I'm helping another actor out, if I'm doing scenes with someone and they're a little less experienced, they try and always put the character on when it's not necessary to the point of cliche. And I'm like, actually, no, the way you are doing this. I had a friend the other day talk to me about a criminal guy, and he's like, yeah, I didn't feel right doing this, you know, in this way. And I said, well, why did you do it in that way?
Yeah.
Why don't you just do it how would you be with a gun? Yeah. How would you be if you were robbing someone?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's still a character.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? That's what I mean by doing too much. I mean, I find a way, really it's just to find a way in, and everyone else has their own process. And some things are hard to find, or take longer to find a way in. I call it a way in. And usually it's through, like, for me, a commonality in pain, or like a grounding in some, you know, something. It's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your pain? Do you mean something that you've experienced?
Yeah. Or an uncomfortable situation, or, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, I get this. Maybe she's a bit more like that. Like, it's like, ooh, I know that feeling.
Just getting these little Easter eggs from your
and then you're
feeling.
like, oh, okay, I'm in. Like, have you ever had that?
Do you find that you drop into that easier on a long job? Because like a lot of actors, you know, when we're coming up, you're doing a day here, a day there, half a day here, a scene here.
Yeah.
Do you find that harder to drop in when you're in that? Do you have any advice for an actor that's got half a day on set and they've got to go in and be that role?
My only advice would be, just use your time wisely. Just because you've got half a page, the process is still the same.
Right.
Still the background, still you've got to find, you know, who your parents were. Why is she the way she is? Because then your half a page will turn into something profoundly interesting rather than just someone speaking the lines of half a page.
And in some sense, you got to keep that to yourself, because certain people on set don't want to know about that. And the director.
You have to tell everyone
in the makeup chair.
What you do.
Right. But you've got it there.
You've done the work before. All this should be done before you even step onto set. Yeah. I mean, that's just doing the work. That's the job of an actor.
If you'd like to join the WeAudition community, go to weaudition.com/show to get 25% off. Now, back to the show.
Do you find acting now on the big sets that you're in, you just, you know, like was on a huge studio movie, because we're in a world of self-tapes, a lot of people are getting booked straight off tape now. Have you noticed a shift between people not being ready?
I just did a movie called Bad Boys 4.
What was it called?
Bad Boys 4.
Is that with...
That's your job.
With Will Smith. And
is that a big movie?
Apparently, Rich, there's been 3 others
Mel's
of
on
them.
A movie called Bad Boys 4.
No, we're getting to that.
I've known him a long time, so I'm allowed to tease him.
So, Bad Boys 4 out in cinemas when?
June 7th.
June 7th, right. And so in a movie like that,
Yeah.
where you're working with actors that might have booked straight off tape,
Yes.
are they coming more prepared or are they coming less prepared than a few years ago when everyone was going in a room where they had some time with a director? Because, you know, even back in the day, you might go through a few auditions and then even a little screen test for smaller roles. And now sometimes you're just getting booked straight off that tape and flying in. Does that change for you?
Honestly, I mean, everyone that I've worked with knows their shit. I mean, they're prepared.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I've not worked, I wouldn't imagine working at this, you know, on a big movie like this. I mean, for instance, Will Smith and Martin, they come in and they know everything that's going on. Yeah. They want to sit down. I mean, it's been such a wonderful process for me because it's been such a collaboration of, you know, I have got to sit down with all the execs and Will and discuss the character because Will loves acting, you know. Yeah. He loves it. He wants to know how we met. Where did she come from? What part of England did she come from? How did she end up in America? Well, she ended up in America through New York because, like a lot of Londoners, they come to another city, and then she ended up in Miami because it's kind of a natural progression of more sunshine. But,
are you deciding that together, or is he asking you your opinion, or is the writers involved?
All of us, and we sit down and we figure it out. Asking me my opinion, and I'll tell them my backstory of how I've created this character and how she became a doctor and how they met. And, you know, we know that they met, you know, in a certain way because that was scripted. But
right.
All the backstory was
You're filling it in.
We have to.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did too, because lots of people ask you lots of questions.
Yeah, and I was going to say, because if you get asked those questions and you're not prepared, and I think that's an important thing to realize, because some actors are thrust into a position like this with one audition can change it, right? And if you haven't been experienced enough to do that work, you might be thrust into this position because you're right for the role.
Yeah.
And then you are surprised by this.
Yeah.
Scenario.
I mean, you hear of stories, you know, and that's wonderful too, like people falling into acting and really, you know, coming in and playing themselves. And so everything lines up. But then if you then, you know, obviously you grab opportunity when you can, but then if you don't then study and learn more about the craft and learn about psychology or learn about building a character, there's only so many, you're only going to ever play yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Which is what people should be doing and all that time off, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons we created the platform WeAudition was so that people could work on their craft every day.
Yeah.
There's no excuse not to work.
Yeah.
And if you need to put time in so you're ready. And I think, I don't know if this quote was misappropriated or not, but he's famous for saying it on the internet. Will Smith says, be ready so you don't need to get ready.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's a real quote from him.
Yeah.
But I see it floated around with this picture.
Yeah.
But it's regardless, it's a great quote, because if you wait until you get that job and then you're scurrying around trying to do all this work, it's, you know, you don't have that stuff in you like you've been talking about this interview where it's ready to go.
Yeah. Well, and also for me, I'm always learning. So, I mean, for me, this, you know, I just feel so lucky to be able to do this job, and I find it truly fascinating. Like, because like I said, I really enjoy this study. I enjoy sitting at a bar and being a bit weird and like thinking, oh,
we all know that.
there.
We know that. There's multiple,
you know,
multiple reports around town of
or the weird, you know, I want to play the weird, you know, nuanced, gritty characters. You know, I want to be doing this till I'm 80. Do you
What's
know what
a role in history that you wish you played but haven't? Like a specific role, something you wish you had got.
I don't know. I mean, there's so many wonderful movies that have been made in history, like American history and English history. But
is there a character out there you thought, I would have smashed that? I'd have dropped the mic on that one.
Yeah.
Don't need to throw anyone any shade, but just know that you could have smashed it.
Who do I love? I'm just gonna. I'm not gonna say it's specific, but like, because there are so many wonderful parts I've seen, and like even like a singer like Etta James, something set in you know, a period piece, costume, bringing fashion and the time and the energy of history and what happened at the time, but that's kind of political as well and tells the history of life and what was going on at the time. You know, just a lovely, that interests me.
Well, listen, all the casting directors that are listening to this, she just gave you a gem. Right? You're going to solve a problem with her there.
Yeah. So we need to get a new script. That's the whole point. I mean, you know.
Is there anything you
There
hate?
are so many things that have been remade. I think that's what I'm getting at. It's nice to bring out new movies, new stories, different angles on stories, different angles.
That's interesting.
On historical figures, you know.
Yeah. Is there anything you dislike about acting?
Yeah, I'm naturally more introverted. Like I can go out and do all the things and do the
pizzazz, the press,
the press stuff, and then I have to go home and just be on my own for a while or a couple of days, or walk on the beach with my dogs.
Yeah.
What I find hard is the energy of a couple of things, really. Being around a lot of people all the time for hours and hours and hours, because I recharge on my own. And also the other thing I find hard is when you are in an emotional state and people are around you making jokes, because people forget that you're playing a character and you can't always be on and happy and entertaining people. You really have to just do the work and do what you need to do on set. I've learned that. I've learned, the hard way, really, because you really, even if you come across as, she's being really quiet, you need to do what you need to do to get your job done.
How do you communicate that to people? Is there a way that you share that helps you? Because I'm sure you're really, we've never had the pleasure of working together, but I'm sure you're really nice on set. No, I
actually did. I did it on my
that?
last show, and I said to the hair, I'd go in and say to the hair and makeup, it's a really heavy day today, guys. If I'm quiet, it's because I'm just thinking about the work. And they were like, oh yeah.
So just communicate.
Yeah,
they're professionals as well. They're used to it,
They must
know
that. Yeah,
and they were
must
wonderful
know that.
about it. I know, but people
day.
just forget
That's
sometimes.
Part of being a good hair and makeup.
Yeah, and hair and makeup are usually wonderful, and they're brilliant. But it's just good to, even for your own peace of mind, just so, because sometimes I'm so in the zone as well, or if I'm really concentrating on something, or listening to music, I you can't always hear everything that's going on or be involved in all the conversations. But yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever taken one of those videos in the hair and makeup chair of the transformation and posted it to your social?
Yeah. Of course, we all have.
What's the etiquette for that? Do you have to ask? Who do you ask if you can do that? Because if it's like your character, because I know on a lot of projects now are NDAs. So if you've got a certain hairstyle, do you ask your AD or who you like?
Most of the time, we're not allowed to post anything really until the movie or the show comes out. But
once it's come out, it's all right. It's in public domain, isn't it? That's what.
Sometimes makeup you can get. Sometimes makeup you can, but not costume and everything. So, but yeah, it's so fun. I mean, isn't it? To work with so many talented people, and everyone's so important. They
usually just go to me like this, so they go, "Yeah, you're good."
Oh, really?
Pretty much. Yeah.
So Mel, we're talking about auditioning a little bit, and do you still audition for stuff, or do people send you stuff as well? Are you at a level where you're getting offers all the time?
Only.
No, I audition for a lot of stuff. Yeah, definitely. And I also get offers too. The show before last was an offer.
How does that work? Do they ask you to read, or it's just an offer, or how does that work?
I've been called by a showrunner and said, I would really like you to do this part. I had you in mind. I spoke to another director. She wants to do this lovely movie in Italy. And she said, it's crazy. I didn't think you'd ever agree to do this part. I've had you on my vision board for the last 6 years or something. And she said, I saw you in one of your shows. And I was like, you're Nina. The character that she wrote was Nina. And I was like, are you kidding? This is the most beautiful love story. I'd love to come to Italy and do a love story and do an independent movie.
So how did that get to you? Because I've experienced, we had a situation in Cannes Film Festival a couple of years ago where an actress that was with us, I had someone come up to me and ask me, can I make an introduction? Because they've been trying to get her in their movie.
Oh, wow.
And this actress in mind had never heard anything about this movie because it had stopped at her rep.
Right.
How do your reps send you all offers regardless, or is someone filtering them out?
Well, no, not. They're definitely filtering stuff out, but this happened to be an independent movie, but it was really beautifully written. And I think she wrote a letter.
So it came through your rep still?
Yeah, she wrote a letter to me and an email to the rep and her vision and her script. And my agent in the UK actually read it. And so I don't know if it would have got to me in America. I mean, things are different here. But I always said to my agents, please let me know about independent movies. I always want to make independent movies as well as the bigger movies and the television, just all across the board.
Especially if it's a love story in Italy, right?
About the money. Yeah. I mean, and any excuse to go back to Europe.
Yeah.
But and it can be wonderful working. I mean, when you read a script like that she's an artist, a poet, and she teaches acting. And so the script was in such a way and she was a feminist. And so for me, that speaks to me. It depends what you, I suppose, as an actor and just as a person in general, just to be very clear about what you want to make and what direction you want to take your career and why you're doing it. Are you doing it for the fame and the money? Are you doing it for the craft? Are you doing it for the story? You want to tell beautiful stories? Why are you doing it all?
And I think
has that changed for you over time? Has it changed? Are you still doing it for the same reasons? Do you know what they are? What are your reasons for doing things?
They were always those reasons. I mean, I've always been a storyteller, like writing, acting, singing, all the things. And there are different things that can come to the top. That are more of a priority. Like, obviously, if you need money and you have bills to pay, and, I arrived in America and I thought, oh my God, I need to work. I need to just get a job. I need to, and there's the scramble and the hustle of pilot season and just working and wanting to get a job. But we also have to kind of balance that with making the right decisions, because, if you just, when you first start, keep on doing jobs for the money that aren't necessarily the best jobs or the most quality jobs, where is that going to take your career? Are you going to be able to do the gritty, big movies, the nuanced movies? Because you have to think of the longevity of it and what you're building for your career. Ridley Scott probably isn't going to ask you to do a movie if you've been doing all these like not so great.
What's a project you're most proud of then? Is there a project that comes to mind, your most proud moment?
Yeah, do you know, a few, most things I've done, but, and I find as I go along, there's something about stepping into where you are as a human being now. Like this job I'm doing now, I stepped into kind of where I am. A big part of me is where I am as Mel now, This
is a film that you're doing right now?
Yeah, just the character.
Yeah.
There's something very grounded about her sitting in gratitude, grown up. My last character was in a stage of life where, and I've played characters that are just a bit, oh my God, I'm not knowing where I'm going. I'm scrambling. I'm in a stage of my life that, and I find that you attract what you're putting out. It's so crazy, but that's how it's gone for me. But I'm proud of all of them, really. And there's so many characters that I want to play. There's just so many. It's endless.
Has your career gone where you thought it would?
That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, I've been asked this question before as well. Like, if I would have said to myself or been told, like at 10 to 15 years old, you're going to go and live in America, live in LA and work. Doing some
podcast with Darren. Yeah.
Movie with Will Smith. I probably would have said, what?
Yeah.
I would have said, that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy.
So it's exceeded your expectations, really? Yeah. I mean,
really.
it's top of the tree, isn't it? You're working with, you're in Hollywood, you're legitimate, established actress yourself, working with the best names in the business, working on a massive studio project that's going to probably be at number one in the box office.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you. But no, I mean, but I say that on the flip side of, I've been working. There's so much that I want to do. And so that you can forget where you've come from. So I just think it's very important to reflect on how far you've come as well. Because for me, I'm just getting started.
When you came to America, Was it your choice to come here to pursue the career, or were you brought here?
Oh no, it was I'd finished drama school in the UK and did one job in the UK. I did a theatre, did a Nigerian play, Nigerian tragedy.
Identity school, were you?
Yeah, I'd actually, I trained somewhere else, and then I met Femi. Femi's my agent. He came to see me in this theatre. I'd done 3 years of training somewhere else. And then I went to do Identity alongside actually auditioning and working with him.
That's a famous school in England that brought out like John Boyega, Daniel Kaluuya, right? Well,
Dams in
Idris,
yeah, Letitia Wright.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were all in my acting class. Which is kind of wild.
Fame factory.
Yeah.
Some respect.
But it was all about just the work, really.
And then you just decided one day, I'm going to come to America and try it there.
Well, Femi was actually taking a group of people to LA to meet managers.
Right.
And I thought, I've done one job. Why not? I've got nothing to lose.
He's always been quite progressive in that way, hasn't he? Like, make stuff happen.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, I didn't even think about LA, but he said you'd do very well in America. So I went with him, and I got a manager. I got my first manager, and it was fantastic.
I mean, and it takes that on your part as well to actually say yes to that opportunity, because there'd be a lot of people that wouldn't,
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yeah, maybe not right for me right now.
Really? Why wouldn't you?
Well, some people would doubt themselves because it takes some effort on their part as well, right?
Yeah.
Have you got any advice, Mel, to someone who is in that position now? Someone maybe starting out, maybe has done a couple of those jobs?
A couple of what jobs?
Where you
maybe
were
a couple
at.
of professional jobs.
Yeah. They've done a couple of jobs where you were at that point.
Yeah.
Would you advise them to do what you did?
Okay. Absolutely. But you could also, I think in this life, it's taking the opportunity. And I took an opportunity where I could. I grabbed it and thought, why not? I mean, if you get given the opportunity in the UK or wherever you are, grab it. I mean, and do the work and do all the things that you need to do and do the work until you get another door opens up for you, and I feel like if you're doing the work, then it'll come.
And you build some doors along the way. Our last guest was just talking about how you have to sometimes build the doors for the opportunities to come.
Yeah,
you've got to create those opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm writing too.
So are you?
Yeah.
We'll save that for
I think we always do with characters and things. So it's absolutely, it's great. It's all about making your own things.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, this question.
Yeah.
I think in life, I've got really to a stage in my life where to keep myself happy, to do the things that I love, to really have wonderful people around me. That's really important to me, and I'm so fortunate to be able to do what I love, which is this crazy business. So yeah, just to be just kind and giving and open and do what you can to give back.
Thank you. That's been so beautiful. We're honored to have you here.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much
for coming into the WeAudition.
Lovely way to end it. Thank you for coming and thanks for being on the podcast.
Richard.
Really lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the WeAudition Show. Your hosts were Darren Darnborough and me, Richard Cambridge, from WeAudition, the leading professional actors community where you can connect, learn, elevate your career, and always get a self-tape reader on demand. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're a WeAudition member, or even if you're not, we would love it if you could please subscribe to this podcast, as it really helps us. And if you have friends who might get value from this episode, please share the link with them. You can find us at weaudition.com or for your iPhone or iPad by searching WeAudition on the App Store. See you next time.